What's going on, you guys? My name is Zach Hartley, and in this video, I am very excited to bring you an interview with Michael Zahra, the president and CEO at Drone Delivery Canada. Now, I've made several videos about this company in the past. I made a video when I bought in at 65 cents, and I'm actually still holding that position. So I do own shares and warrants right now. I also interviewed Michael Zahra about 11 months ago, and since then, I've made several videos talking about their financial statements. Now, Michael Zahra, like I mentioned, is the president and CEO at Drone Delivery Canada. He's also the former president of Staples Canada and the former president of Schlumberger Canada. He also holds an MBA in international business. So this is a very well experienced and very smart gentleman. And the topics that we are going to talk about today, we're going to start with the long-term vision, and then we're going to dive right into the specifics, starting with the Edmonton project, the Condor progress. I'm going to ask Michael a couple of questions about the financials. We're going to learn a little bit more about his sales team. I'm going to ask him directly about insider ownership, and then we're going to finish off the interview with some future plans. If you get any value out of this video, the only thing I ask of you is click that like and subscribe button. And if you want to learn more about Drone Delivery Canada, you can go to their website, dronedeliverycanada.com, or look up their files on CDAR. Now, without any further ado, let's just jump right into the interview. All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining me again on my channel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. And again, congrats on the growth of your channel on YouTube. It's a testament to your great content.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it. Drone Delivery Canada gives me lots of video ideas, so I think it works out well for everyone. So let's just start with the big picture here. It's been 11 months since our last interview. Can you just give us a refresher on what is your long-term goal and vision for the company, and where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so 5 to 10 years is a long time in a new industry, but I can't really make too many forward-looking statements or predictions. But I mean, obviously our focus is on delivery, and when I say delivery, it's in the broadest sense. Obviously, cargo is the obvious thing that we're focused on, but we also can carry cameras and sensors and all the related applications that go with that. So I think over time, we will continue to see projects related to delivery, but I think we'll see a little bit of diversification in other kinds of cargo, as I mentioned, cameras and sensors and things that go with that. So longer term, I see us as a technology leader. And it's not just about the drones, as and probably most of the viewers know. It's an integrated turnkey solution. So there's drone spots, and there's other hardware and battery management systems and other technology for detect and avoid and the flight software and that sort of thing. So I think being a technology leader over the next few years is very clearly where we want to be. And we're also, we're not just building the business. I always say that we're building the industry, because it is a new industry. We often give guidance to foreign regulators who might be writing their own regulations for their countries. So, building the operations globally, working with regulators and helping them build their industry globally as well. And then generally being a leader in the space, and of course the revenue that will come with that leadership, longer term. So.
For sure. So grand ambitions there, and definitely a big market for you. Can you tell us about how things have gone for you over the past kind of 11 to 12 months? Are you where you want to be right now? And what was the biggest accomplishment for you recently? I know you put out a variety of different press releases over the last few months. Is there one where you're like, yeah, we checked the box on that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we accomplished, and I think it's important to step back and for people to realize, as I mentioned, it's a relatively new business in a very new and evolving and disruptive industry, and a lot of the things that we're doing are being done for the first time. So. I always say, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it, and not everybody is doing it for that reason, and that's one of the reasons why we're the leaders. But in terms of accomplishments, I would say there's quite a few that we're proud of, and that we've been celebrating, this year. Building the company, and what's interesting, because it's a new business and a new industry, we're building the house at the same time we're building the foundation, which is very interesting to do that. But I think we're in a significantly more advanced place today than we were a year ago in all regards. Again, advancing the technology. And I know a lot of people focus on the drones, but there's the drone spots, and we've got a new version of the drone spot that has just come out that we're implementing in our newest customers that we'll share some videos and photos on. And the software is a big part of the secret sauce. New patents, new processes, ISO 9001. We've won a lot of awards, some new additions to the board, some new employees who bring some great skills, new customers, which is always good, and some new partners, because we don't do this alone. There's a lot of partners that we're tied to at the hip or who are working with us behind the scenes. But I would also say that one of the biggest accomplishments is the complexity of the projects that we're now able to do. And I think Edmonton International Airport is a good example where the public perception is that you can't operate drones at an airport, which makes sense for the most part for consumer drones. But the Edmonton International Airport, we're going to be operating at an airport. So the complexity of the kinds of projects that we're able to do, because of our expertise, because of our technology, and because of the relationship that we have with Transport Canada, NAV Canada, and partners like the airport and Air Canada. So I would say a lot of things, but I would say the growth in the company and the sophistication to allow us to do really complex projects that I don't really see other people doing, and then continuing to lead for sure.
Nice. So let's dive into one of those projects you mentioned, the Edmonton International Airport. It sounded like there were a couple of different parties involved with that one. Can you tell us about why did they choose to go with you? What do the operations look like? And is this going to be kind of like a small parcel delivery from point A to point B, or what do the operations actually look like at kind of full scale when you get up and running with this project?
Yeah, so there are multiple partners. The opportunity was brought to the table in collaboration with our work with Air Canada. The customers are threefold for this first project at the airport. So it's Edmonton International Airport, it's Apple Express, who is a courier, and it's Zing Final Mile, who's also a courier. So they have a vision for, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, that we want to build out a hub and spoke network at an airport. And it made sense for us to do it with them, because they're one of the more sophisticated airports in Canada. They're already using drones for wildlife control. They have a lot of businesses in their area that they have great relationships with for future expansion of what we're doing. So it made sense for us to work with them. They wanted to work with us because of us being a leader in Canada. So it made sense. And then what we brought to the table in terms of the Sparrow, and then future migration to more complex routes, migration to larger drones like Robin, next generation Sparrow, Condor, and these sort of things. So it's a really exciting project. Initially, it's one route with the Sparrow. It's going to originate, cargo will move in both directions, but it's going to originate on airport property, and it's going to go to Nisku, which is an industrial park in Leduc County. And the customers envision this again as the first step towards something that would be larger with multiple routes in the future. So very, very exciting. It's being implemented literally as we speak, and we should be up and flying. And the term of the contract will start sometime in October. So yeah, it's in your neighborhood in Alberta too. So it's a great project.
Yeah, it's only a couple hours away from me. I might have to go drone spotting one day. So quick question about like, are they transporting small parcels and it's basically the customer's connection to the airport if they need to move something quickly, or is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I would say the cargo is going to be fairly generic. It's going to be, it's not going to be, coffee and muffins and these sort of things that you might see on other people's, YouTube videos for drone delivery. It's going to be, I would say, more commercial and industrial cargo. It is an industrial park that they're flying to and from. So there's a number of businesses there. And then on the airport property, there are many different businesses, whether they are courier companies, freight forwarders, retail, cannabis growers. So, I mean, there's a very, very, very broad variety of businesses at the Edmonton airport, but the initial route is going to be mostly, I would say, commercial and industrial type of cargo, but a wide variety.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So let's dive into those drones a little bit. The Condor seems to be the drone that gets the largest attention, at least from what I can see online. Can you tell us a little bit about where the Condor is at today with regards to development, and then what still needs to happen before this Condor can be sent out or sold to a customer for routes?
Sure. Before I start talking about the Condor, I just want to mention, I mean, Condor is definitely a high profile and it's a high priority for us, but I think people should not neglect the Sparrow, and next generation Sparrow is coming, and we paused the Robin to focus on that and the Condor, and then hopefully we'll revisit the Robin the next little while. But there are definitely viable commercial, social, healthcare, First Nations, et cetera, projects for the Sparrow. But I understand that Condor is got everybody excited, and us too. But so I mean, I can't. I'm not really permitted to give future dates and that sort of thing. But development is going extremely well. Testing is going extremely well. We've done a few press releases on testing and some of the things that we've done. Again, this is something that's been being done for the first time. So it's complex, which is a good thing, because that's our forte, being able to do these sort of complex systems and routes. But there's still some development that needs to be done related to a variety of parameters in terms of how we fly and load balancing, and some development, and maybe some patents will come out of that as well. So we're excited about that as well. But there's still a little bit of developing to be done, and definitely some testing that still needs to continue. But it's going well. It's a top priority for us, which again is why we paused the Robin to focus on the Condor, and we'll continue to give updates on testing and hopefully some more videos and photos, because I think everybody always appreciates to see it actually in the air and flying. So I know I'm being a little vague, but I can't really give specific guidance. But thus far, it's gone extremely well. It is complex. It's not just about the drone. It's about integrating it with the flight software and detect and avoid systems and these sort of things. So it's really a systemic approach that we're taking to it. And there's still some testing to come for sure.
Fair enough. Maybe you can't answer this, but can you tell us if it's your testing that it needs to pass, or the regulators testing, or both?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and there's a lot of confusion around that. So I'm happy you asked. So it's really our testing. So for the intended initial routes, which will be in remote rural areas, I don't think we'll see the Condor flying downtown Toronto anytime soon. But for the intended routes, which are rural and remote, it does not need type certification from the regulator, who's Transport Canada in Canada. So it's really our testing that needs to be completed. And when we are happy with the testing and the completion of that testing, then we'll obviously be able to implement projects and fly commercially. But it is flying now. We posted a number of videos, and it's flying at our test range. It's flying at a few other test ranges in Canada. There's one in Foremost, Alberta. There's one in Alma, Quebec. We've flown at both of those. So it's us that's doing the manufacturing. It's us that's doing the testing, and when we're completed, we're good to go. And of course, we've been pre-selling it, and we've got great response from customers and prospects in Canada and certainly internationally. And anybody who's been in for a tour, or we had an open house a while ago, I mean, there's a lot of people who've seen it. But yeah, we'll continue to post some photos and videos as we progress.
Very exciting. And you mentioned you guys are manufacturing. Are you manufacturing it at your facility there, or are you getting some help with that? And is manufacturing it difficult? I know like automakers are having a tough time getting parts. Is that a challenge for you guys at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a major challenge. I mean, I think overall in the industry, there's a bit of a challenge with semiconductors and that sort of thing. So I mean, we're not immune to the impact of the pandemic, and that's why maybe it's taken a little longer. But I don't see any like major red flags in terms of being able to get components and that sort of thing. So for all of our drones, the assembly is being done here in our facility in Vaughan, just outside of Toronto. And that is the plan for the short term. Longer term, it has always been our plan to move to outsource manufacturing, outsource assembly when we're at scale, when we're producing, multiple Sparrows and multiple Condors and that sort of thing. But I think at this point, in the development and testing phase and the assembly of prototypes and the scale that we're at today, it makes sense to keep it in-house.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. So let's just change gears a little bit and start talking about the financials. I took a quick look at the balance sheet, and in my opinion, it looked extremely healthy. The last report showed about 38 million in total assets and under 2 million in total liabilities. As the CEO looking at that balance sheet, how do you feel about it? And as a retail investor, is there anything that you think we should be focusing on and really valuing or looking at?
Yeah, I mean, we are a very fiscally responsible company, I would say. We are not currently working towards a bought deal offering. We feel very comfortable with our strong, current cash position. We have no debt. Any liabilities that you see on our financials are really just sort of, operating accounts payable and that sort of thing. So we have no debt. Revenue is growing. We understand it's, still, early stage revenue, but revenue is growing, year over year. So we're happy. Many of our customers, as people may know, I've talked about it a little bit in the past, they make large upfront payments, which certainly help our cash flow as well. People can look at our financials and what our burn rate is on cash. But if you look at that with the cash that we have in the balance sheet, we feel very, very comfortable with our financials going forward. So I think we're in a good position, and we expect to be as such going forward.
Awesome. And now with regards to your customers, I know that the sales cycle and the life cycle of your contracts is fairly long and extensive. The revenue difference between the last 2 quarters, can you talk about that for a minute? I assume that some of those contracts ended, some of them hadn't started, but what caused the change in revenue over the last 2 quarters?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, again, we are early stage revenue in a new industry. So projects are going to be won. Some are going to renew. Some have a fixed term with no expectation of renewal. So there's a real mixed bag of the kinds of projects that we're doing. So revenue is, I think, going to be choppy in the early days where we are today. When we do a press release of a new project, we typically outline what the term is, so people can do the math when we do a press release, when it's commercially up and running, how long the term is, so people can get a feel for when projects will begin and end and renew and these sort of things. But I think it's important, given the nature of the industry and being an early stage revenue, that people take a longer term look, not necessarily monthly and quarterly. So as an example, if you look at the first 6 months of 2021 versus the first 6 months of 2020, revenue is 803% of prior year, albeit on a small base. I understand that, but we only started revenue in March 2020, and things take time. If you look at any other large disruptive company, and I'm not saying we're like them, but just as an analogy, if you look at Amazon and Apple and Microsoft and Uber and Airbnb and these kind of companies that started from zero and who are disruptors in the market, it takes time to build the foundation, build the business. We also have to deal with new technology that's never been done before, regulations and these sort of things. So it does take time. And the most recent projects that we've signed, UBC, University of British Columbia, Faculty of Medicine, and then the Edmonton airport that we just talked about. We didn't release the numbers because we didn't want to, and the customers didn't want to either. But those are fairly large from a revenue point of view, and we're very, very happy with those projects. The revenue that's going to come from those projects, and we expect it to start in October. So I mean, really, I would take a longer term approach to revenue. And if you look at it on a very short term, it's just going to be choppy. It's just the nature of a new business and a new industry.
No, totally fair. I think that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of revenue and sales, can you tell us a little bit about your partnership with Air Canada? How is that partnership structured, if you can share any of that with us? And then what are your expectations of them, and how is it going so far?
Yeah, so we signed with Air Canada. It's quite a while ago now. I guess we were like 2 years into a 10-year agreement with them. So they are acting as our commercial partner. They are our reseller. Initially, the focus was on Canada, and Canada is still going to be our priority. But Air Canada obviously has relationships internationally. So we're looking at opportunities in the United States and in Europe and Africa and India and Australia and all around the world really with Air Canada. So thus far it's gone well. They've brought a number of opportunities to the table. We've been able to close some of those and bring them across the finish line and announce those. So we're very happy with what they've done thus far. They bring expertise not only just in their customer base and their ability to resell our solution, but they also bring expertise in complex cargo, transporting dangerous goods, transporting pharmaceuticals, temperature control cargo, and these sort of things. So they bring industry knowledge in addition to selling ability. So very, very happy with them. They're happy with us, I know, and it's been good so far. So can't really complain.
Excellent. I'm making an assumption here, but it looked like you were also starting to build an internal sales team. Is that true? And then how do they compete for customers? Do they go after different areas? How do you structure and how do you manage that?
Yeah, so in our agreement with Air Canada, there are certain markets that we are able to go direct, should we choose. Because yes, we have our sales force. We've had a sales force for a while. That sales force certainly supports Air Canada because they bring opportunities to the table. Then we need to certainly there's a lot of DDC effort to get those across the finish line. So salespeople are supporting Air Canada. Salespeople are also prospecting in vertical markets where we can go direct. Air Canada is not prevented from going to any markets, but there are markets where we are able to go direct. Things like military. We had an announcement on that a little while ago. Mining and oil and gas and that sort of thing. So we're not competing with Air Canada. We support them in their selling efforts, but there are markets where we're allowed to go direct. So that's what we're doing, building out and growing our sales and marketing team and to continue to accelerate the revenue. So yeah, we've actually got a posting right now. So if anybody's interested, you can go to our website and see some of the openings for sales. But really adding to the team to accelerate our revenue and continue to support the large volume of leads that Air Canada is bringing in.
Very exciting. I will throw that link in the description to this video as well, so people can check that out. Now, previously, this was a little while ago, but you announced some letters of intent with partners in Kenya and India. Can you share any information about how that's going? And if not, are there any other geographic areas that you see as a focus or a big opportunity for DDC?
So, yeah, so our immediate focus is what we can do today, and that's in Canada. We're definitely interested in international markets. So we had a few announcements for things outside of Canada. The US market is sort of an obvious market. So we announced a while ago that we had started the process to look at the US market. We can actually fly in the US today. We've actually flown BVLOS in the US a couple of years ago. So we can fly projects under what's called Part 107 with the Sparrow, literally today. But we're also looking for licensing partners. So outside of Canada, the model is to license our system to somebody who will then be the operator, who will then have their customers using our solution. So we're obviously keen to do that in the US market. And as you mentioned, we announced LOIs with partners in India, which is a massive market. Partner in Kenya for the African market, which is also a massive market. So focus is primarily short-term Canada, but longer term, I think we'll see some international activity. But it's really, I would say, a bit more longer term. What we've been doing in the meantime with those partners we signed LOIs with, we've been working with the regulators, helping those regulators formulate their regulations. Some countries are quite sophisticated in drones, like the US, for instance, and some countries a lot less so. So we're actually providing consulting and advice on drafting new regulations in some of these other countries that are still new to drones. Working with those partners to identify use cases and economic modeling, getting ready for when the Condor comes out and these sort of things. So a lot of work happening behind the scenes, but the international, I would say, is a bit longer term.
Fair enough. That makes sense. Switching gears again, just a little bit here. Can you talk to us at all? And I know this is a sensitive subject, but can you talk to us at all about insider ownership within the company, and where should people go to get accurate or correct information?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And so insider holdings are public, and people can search, in a variety of reliable sources. They can go to CEDAR for our financials, and there's a number of websites you can go to see, inside information on transactions or holdings and these sort of things. I think what's really important is knowing that there is definite alignment between insiders, management, and the board. They're very aligned with shareholders and the stock price of which is what shareholders care about, of course. Just given the nature of their job, but also via personal holdings of stock, and/or warrants and stock options. So stock options, certainly align us, with the share price. All of the executives, myself included, we have stock options. I still have quite a few options. I know there was a discussion about me having exercise options a while ago. That's just part of normal compensation, and I won't get into the details of that. But there's a lot of blackout periods and lockup periods and schedules and these sort of things. So there's a lot of complexity around when those transactions happen. But I still have stock options, and as do other insiders. And through that and other personal holdings, we're definitely aligned with shareholders, I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you for addressing that. So looking at the industry now, I talked to you about a year ago. What would you say has been the biggest change in the industry? Are you seeing any changes in the industry? And is it going the direction that you originally thought it would go when you joined with Drone Delivery Canada?
Yeah, I would say it's going as we expected. I mean, the pandemic obviously was thrown in the middle of that, and as much as the pandemic was obviously a bad thing, and unfortunately we're still kind of in the middle of it, and hopefully it will end soon. It did raise the profile of the industry, and it raised the profile of the company. Cargo volume went up, e-commerce volume went up, and that sort of thing. So. And I think there's some longevity to the impact, to the favorable, I hate to use the word, but to the favorable impact of the pandemic around cargo and in e-commerce. But the use cases that existed before the pandemic still exist, and those were primarily remote locations, whether they're indigenous or not. Remote communities, mining and oil and gas, which tend to be remote. So remote access, it's very inefficient, very costly. Sometimes people call it last mile. So that was a major use case. And then time critical delivery. So maybe you can get there, through traditional means, but if it can get there faster with a drone, it makes all the difference. You could be saving lives, or time is money sometimes. So those haven't changed. The pandemic created a new use case, which is limiting person-to-person contact. So there are communities or oil and gas or mining camps that really don't want outsiders coming in to potentially bring the virus, but you need to keep the supply chain open. So using drones is ideal for that. So that was a third use case that was created as a result of the pandemic. But I would say what we envisioned would happen has happened in terms of use cases. I think there's greater acceptance over time, because you're seeing more use of drones for deliveries that we're doing, for instance, or other applications that other people might be doing for agriculture or inspections and a variety of other things. So there's greater acceptance, I think, by prospects, by regulators. The technology is evolving, ours and third parties, and we can leverage that technology. So those are some trends that we expected. Battery technology is getting better. Drone motor technology is getting better. So I think all of those trends are favorable to the business, and we expected them. So no real red flags or surprises, and I think everybody's on the right path in the industry.
Nice. And exactly like you said, battery and all of the technology behind it, it feels like the wind is at your back and the products can only get better from here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the next generation Sparrow, which we're working on, and hopefully we'll show pictures of it test flying and videos of it test flying in the next couple of months, that is using new technology batteries, new technology for motors, which is actually going to reduce the weight, which allowed us to put things like public address systems on it, allowed us to put things like a parachute on it for the actual drone, which will facilitate longer term the ability to fly over people and work within some of the constraints of the regulations. So a lot of these technologies are, cool from a technology point of view, but they actually help, economics. They actually help with the regulations. So I mean, definitely tailwinds, which are good for us in the industry.
For sure. And it sounds like the opportunity is just massive. Now, I went through pretty much all of the financials and the management discussion in the last report. And I noticed it did say that there was an impact occurrence earlier this year. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and what the plan is moving forward with that, or the story behind it?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, obviously, some of that is customer and company confidential. I can't really talk about things that aren't already public. But I did put out a YouTube video a few weeks ago, discussing it. We had an incident with the Sparrow. What's interesting, and I think the important takeaway, is that the customer actually saw it as a positive. We were able to prove our processes. We were able to prove the integration of our processes with the customer's processes in terms of how we handled the event. And in the end, the customer's happy, regulators happy. We're operational after a short pause at that customer. It didn't really impact the business. There was just a slight pause. Customer is still a customer, and all is good. So, I'm not dismissive of the event, but I don't think it's really a red flag. And again, not to minimize these kind of things, but I mean it's not uncommon to see an incident or an occurrence in any kind of transportation industry, whether it's air, whether it's road, whether it's marine. I mean, there are things that are going to happen, and I think what's most important is how do you handle them? How do you recover from it? Is the customer happy? Is the regulator happy? And in this case, check mark and all those things. So all is good.
I agree. And personally, you guys are doing much better than me. I've personally crashed like 5 drones in my life. But yeah, like my drone bill's over $5,000 pretty easily. So you're doing great, in my opinion. Last 2 questions for you. What does the growth strategy look like over the next little while? What is going to help this company scale up and kind of get to that next level? Is it new contracts and a bigger sales team? How do you get to that next stage? What's the plan?
Yeah, so I mean, can't really give specific guidance on future catalysts or events and that sort of thing. But just to reiterate again, I mean, it's an early stage revenue company in a brand new and highly regulated industry. So I mean, you have to look at the history of disruptive companies and what they went through. So I mean, I think people should look to official announcements from us that we make related to the things that we expect in the future, new technology. And I know, and I mentioned it a couple of times already, but people tend to focus on the drone, which is the cool part of it. Maybe that there's the visual that people see, but there's the software, there's the drone spots, there's battery management systems, there's processes, and there's documentation, these sort of mundane things, and make up the whole business and allow us to do what we do. So new technology, new projects, new partnerships, because we don't do this alone. We have some great partners that we work with, and hopefully some announcements on some other ones to come in the future. But those are all the kind of catalysts I think that people can look for in the future, and that we continue to move the business forward and continue to be a leader. And I think you'll see some diversification as well in the revenue. And there are some vertical markets that we're not operating in today, like mining and oil and gas and a few things, and we're excited to be working potentially in those with some prospects that we're currently speaking with. So I think you'll see the technology evolve. I think you see the regulations evolve. I think you'll see us doing more complex projects like the Edmonton project. And then I think you'll also see some diversification in the different vertical markets, and then some international opportunities as well.
Fantastic. It sounds like there's a bright future ahead. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? Is there anything else that we missed? Anything else you'd like to tell the audience? And then where should people find more information about you?
Yeah, so I would say, as I mentioned, get information from reliable sources, because, unfortunately, there's, a lot of smoke and mirrors from a lot of companies with a lot of claims and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of people who, say things that, aren't correct. So there are a lot of reliable sources. Obviously the press releases that we send out are carefully crafted. They go through a legal approval process. They go through a stock market regulator approval process before they're sent out. So, that's reliable information. There are official financial filings, which you can find on SEDAR. Our social media will be posting obviously photos and videos, and we'll try to do a bit more of that so people can see what's going on behind the scenes as we roll out and operate at the UBC and Edmonton Airport project. But yeah, just make sure you're going to reliable sources, because there are unfortunately a lot of unreliable sources. But we're in this for the long term. We're building not just a business, we're building the industry. New projects are underway. And people need to realize that this is all fairly new, and a lot of it's never been done before. It's easy from a distance to oversimplify, what we're doing. It's complex. And like I said earlier, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, but it's not easy. And these are great barriers for new competitors. So, we're very, very confident in what we're doing and where we're going for the future. So, yeah.
I completely agree. The more and more I get educated on this industry, the more and more it feels like those strategic kind of barriers are going up for drone delivery Canada. So I like where you guys are going.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael. I sincerely appreciate it. And hopefully another interview in another year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't have to wait a year. Maybe we'll do one in the new year, and we'll have some cool things to talk about for sure. Appreciate the interview and your time, Zach.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Michael. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.